big story. We got a war going on within the conservative commentator space. Tell me it's not so. You got Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson just at it. Hey, disagreement is healthy, right? Well, these two, Mediaite did a great story on this. These two are really coming down the warpath. Ben especially. You know, one of my friends said to me, did you hear Ben Shapiro last week? I was like, gosh, no, I missed that. Oh my gosh, he was just all over Tucker. He spent like 20 minutes going after Tucker. So I was like, wow. Well, it doesn't entirely surprise me. And if you look at the article, it's in part because Candace Owens was fired, and then she went on to Tucker's show and maybe said some things. I actually listened to it. I don't think that she was really heinous in any way or disrespectful to Shapiro, but he did say, I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. He was talking about her analysis of what was going on in the Middle East. And of course, I share this sentiment with him. I think we're both very pro-Israel, and Candace Owens was not. And Tucker perhaps is not as pro-Israel, certainly as Ben Shapiro is. And so this has become sort of a thing. And he just took him to task on his show. And I think we have some video. Maybe we should even play the clip. Do we have anything from perhaps Tucker speaking with Candace Owens that we can show folks? Because it's been like a succession of issues. I mean, there's just been a whole lot of things that I think Ben and Candace didn't see eye to eye on. And of course, Ben runs a private company, and maybe he feels like he wants more people that have a more similar viewpoint surrounding him. It's his prerogative as a private business owner, right? Nothing wrong with that. But Tucker's like ultimate free speech. Of course, you don't necessarily have to have free speech on Ben's business site, right? And I think that's what sort of, not to, I don't really have a view on this other than to tell you more commentary, the better. Like Candace can go out on her own, and she should. And Tucker's already out on his own, as he should be. Ben Shapiro's brilliant. I mean, he recognized this before any of us did, right? He went out on his own at a really great time. It took me a while to catch up to speed, but I'm out here on my own. I really do think that anybody who has a viewpoint, is passionate about that viewpoint, and can communicate that viewpoint should be on their own. It's a no-brainer. And you know what? We're not all going to agree with each other, nor should we, right? Part of a healthy dialogue. And I think conservatives get this. Sure, Ben went off for 20 minutes on Tucker, and Tucker will probably respond with some kind of thing in kind. And hey, if we're lucky, they'll have a debate together, and that would be awesome. Actually, that would be really awesome. Think about that, because I think that Tucker was like debate champion of the year or something in high school. And Ben might have a similar accolade in his past. So that would actually be a debate that I think we would all turn in to see. And I would encourage that debate. I think this is a real difference actually between liberals and conservatives right now. I do think that while we may all as conservatives have differences of opinions, we still ultimately respect one another. And I guarantee you that even though Ben may be really mad at Candace, and Candace may be really mad at Ben, and again, Drew, if you have the sound, I would like to show it, because I thought that she did a pretty decent job in characterizing what went down, and people should see that. I didn't think that this was too hateful or too off the charts. Let's take a listen.
There's also, I can't help but notice that your views reflect mine, I would say pretty much. I'm an American. I was horrified by what happened on October 7th. I think it was pretty strange. I don't really understand how it happened, but innocents died, and that's awful. And I hated watching that. And I feel so sorry for the Israelis who were killed. However, there's an emotional response that is disproportionate, I think, on the part of some commentators. I mean, our country's being...
See, I disagree with this, but...
Of young men whose identities we don't know, who probably don't even like America, and they're now living here. Over 100,000 Americans die every year of fentanyl. I've known a couple. Those are real tragedies. I've never seen anything like the emotion from any commentator around those tragedies as I'm watching about a foreign tragedy. I think that's odd.
Okay, do we have any of Candace's commentary as well that we can show people? And we can talk a little bit about that, because it was a little bit all over the place what he was saying, but we'll get back to it in a second. We're going to jump in and listen to Candace Owens talking about some of the other issues that she so vehemently disagreed with Tucker Carlson on.
Of wokeness and free speech. There are a lot of people.
Okay, we're still trying to pull that up. So as Drew pulls this up, I'm just going to explain the last soundbite that we were listening to, where Tucker was saying, why are they all of a sudden so concerned about this? I would say, in defense of Ben Shapiro, you know what? He's been darn concerned about the border for some time. Really concerned about the border. So, and very concerned about all the illicit substances coming into our country. And so it may not be entirely a fair characterization to say, he's all concerned about October 7th, but not concerned about this other stuff. I think he's been really, really concerned about all of this. And it just so happens that one is in the news right now. You also have it in the news as a result of what we're seeing in university campuses all across America, where students somehow feel emboldened to spout so much hate against Israel and against Jewish students. And Jewish students obviously feel really uncomfortable. I mean, I'm not Jewish. I'd feel really uncomfortable. And I went to Columbia University. I would not be comfortable walking into the library right now because you see the tent city that's effectively spouted up. The headline on the New York Post at this moment is all about that tent city, and these kids won't move. Because the president of that university, for whatever reason, has made a decision, ladies and gentlemen, to have drawn this line in the sand. It's like Obama all over again with Syria, for goodness sakes. The red line in the sand. You must move. This was like last Wednesday or Thursday at midnight. You must move. And then guess what? When they don't move, she doesn't do anything. She doesn't do a damn thing. So they stay there and they continue to intimidate. Things have now gotten increasingly violent. You look at some of the video that's come to us out of Emory University over the weekend. This shouldn't be happening. Why is it happening? We talked about Soros and his role, $300,000 that he has donated to the organization that believes in revolution, not reform. So none of this is a very good place for America to be right now. And it makes all the sense in the world that Ben Shapiro, specifically as a Jewish person himself, should be out there talking about this. But he has talked very forcefully about some of these other issues too. It looks like Drew doesn't have the Candace Owens tape for us, so we'll hold off on that. But I can just paraphrase for you guys. Listen, she went on the show and she said, we had a whole bunch of differences of opinion. You know what? We didn't agree, for example, on the vaccine thing. We didn't agree on the situation with Israel and Gaza, et cetera. And ultimately, it made sense for them to part ways. And so I think that actually, frankly, from both sides, and I've heard both Ben and Candace comment on this, none of it has been too over the top. They've been pretty respectful of each other. And ultimately, as a conservative, I can just say this, we respectfully want to have a difference of opinion. Now, we may not want you working for us if your opinion is so vastly different than ours, right? And if we can't have it sort of coincide with what our sponsors stand for and represent. Remember when Tommy Lahren left Glenn Beck because they had a real difference of opinion on the pro-choice, pro-life issue? I mean, this happens, right? It happens. But ultimately, I do say this about all of us. We are way better. You are way better at hearing more sides. It makes me actually think you're smarter. I really do. Like, I actually think conservatives are by far smarter because they're able to digest more information and not become overly emotional about it. On the left, however, they get so emotional that it gets to the point where they can actually justify some kind of revolution in their eyes, some kind of dangerous, frankly, revolution. And they can, unfortunately, in some cases, justify violence. And that's just wrong. And it will always be wrong. So Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, trouble in paradise. You guys are not always going to agree with each other. I don't always agree with either one of you, frankly, or Candace for that matter. Look, and that's part of the beauty of being a commentator in America. We don't always have to agree, but we should always be willing to hear, to listen, and to debate, respectfully debate the other side.